I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not the end of the world to feel things.
I guess not. It's up there. The thing is, I really cared about Marcus.
Hey there, how you doing? My name is Dana Boadway-Masson, and I am a mentor for Animation Mentor, and I'm going to do your eCritique today for your winning entry for the 11 Second Club. So, Ren Zhihe, I hope I said your name even close to correctly. Congratulations on winning this month. Your work looks terrific, and I'm going to look forward to giving you some feedback on that. Let me give you a little bit of information about who I am first. I'm a freelance animator. I've been doing remote freelance for 8 years or so, since 2007, partway through 2007. I started doing that. I've worked at lots of different studios all over the world, doing feature films, television, commercials, games, cinematics, you name it, just kind of all over the map. So it's been a lot of fun trying out lots of different genres for being an animator. I was an actor and a dancer before I became an animator. That was my big goal in life. I was actually in university to become an actor before I discovered computer animation, which when I saw Toy Story really excited me like crazy. So that was my new passion, and I've never been sorry I made the switch. I just love this whole industry. I've really had a very enjoyable career so far. If you want to see some stuff I'm working on, I have a short film that I've been working on for a number of years, and it's kind of been on hiatus for the past year because I've been super busy between my little boy and a lot of freelance work, so I haven't really had time to get back to it in the last while. You can check it out on Facebook. I have a page for Killerjellybean Animation. It's all one word, Killerjellybean Animation. You can see a lot of the production work for the short film. My demo reel is on YouTube. Just look up my name, you'll find me. And let's see, what else? You can also see some more stuff for the film on the website, thecafefilm.com. Yeah, so go like me on Facebook. Go like the Killerjellybean Animation page on Facebook. So let's see. Let's get right into your shot then. So let me just put the volume down to 0 and just let it play while I start talking. The first thing I noticed when I started watching your shot was that it has a beautiful natural weight and organic movement. The characters have a beautiful flow to the way that they move. The weight shift has beautiful arcs, particularly on the guy who's standing up, and when he switches from one foot to the other, and you get a nice, there's a nice figure 8 kind of flow to his arc of movement, which really makes for a nice solid feeling weight. He really feels the way that he's leaning on the bar has a nice weight to it with the shoulder, and the way he kind of leans into the shoulder and the shoulder shrugs up. It feels nice and solid. And she's got the body language of both of them reads really well as well. She's very protective. She's got the phone is cupped in her hands. It's like it's something precious. She holds it to her heart when she's not looking at it. You really get that sense of her being in pain and kind of protective and closed off, and she doesn't want to hurt anymore. And he is looks like he's feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Initially, of course, you think that it's because he is a real guy's guy and doesn't really like talking about feelings, and then it's revealed at the end, and that little twist at the end,
Guess
the
not.
visual twist at the end
It's up
where
there.
we see Marcus
The thing
is
is, I really care about
really
Marcus.
fun ending. It takes the dialogue and it gives it something unexpected, which is really cool. So
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not
the original
end of the
idea
world to
definitely
feel
adds a lot to what you're hearing in the audio.
Guess not. It's up there.
The facial expressions on both characters are also both great. There's a lot of nice subtlety in there. There's a lot of nice subtext in there.
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not
Little eye direction changes and stuff on the part of both characters that really give a sense of where their focus is at. You know, she's thinking about Marcus here. She's looking off into the distance, and then she is, you know, when she looks back at him to talk to him, she's kind of back more in the moment, and her head is back in the space of that moment of that conversation, rather than kind of being wistful and thinking about him. So you can clearly see where her attention is going back and forth by what's happening with her eye direction and where she's looking. And then she kind of goes back to thinking about him again, and she just sort of buries herself in her hands. And he starts off he's playing with the bottle over here. He's just being kind of fidgety, which gives that sense of him feeling sort of uncomfortable about the conversation. And then he turns to talk to her, and you know, he's kind of looking down at her a little bit, and he's like, oh, you know, feelings, it's not the end of the world to feel something, you know. So he kind of gets that disdain by the way that he's looking sort of down at her. So you kind of get this sense of him being like, oh, I just don't want to touch feelings, I just don't want to talk about feelings. And then we cut back here. We see him a little bit closer. We see that she's facing away. So this shot is really nice in that it keeps us reminded that she's looking in a different direction, and but it gets us up close to him so we can really see and focus in on what he is doing and thinking. And he glances back over, and there is Marcus at the end. So we see what he's looking at. So that's all kind of crafted together really nicely. It's difficult for me because I'm looking on that we've got a bit of a smaller screen for doing eCrit, so I think that says I love you, but I'm not sure. I can't quite tell what the text messages say. If I was looking at it on a bigger screen, maybe I could have seen it better. However, you probably could have put that phone closer to the screen and filled the screen a little more with it so that it would be very clear what was on there, so that, you know, if somebody, and these days we're kind of going back to smaller screens, you know, how for a while there it was all the bigger the better, but now we've all got iPads and smartphones and tablets and things that have smaller screens. So you kind of have to keep that in mind if you're doing something like this. Your viewer's screen might actually be pretty small. So I would fill the screen with that phone a little bit more, get the camera in closer, get the phone closer to the camera. When I'm looking at this shot, I have to say that there's something about the shape of this thumb that is really bothering me, and it's because it's so straight. If you look at and you know, I fully understand that the character rig, the design of that character might be kind of dictating some of that shape, but you know, if you look at a hand and when it's holding something, you're really kind of missing this sort of heel part of the thumb, and when I'm looking at my hand kind of doing stuff on the phone, there really sort of needs to that angle kind of needs to be exaggerated a little bit, because that's, you know, she's holding on to it and doing stuff with her thumb. But you can see what I mean about the that shape and how it's kind of feeling like it's just, you know, flat. It's kind of like a tube. It feels like a sausage kind of coming out of her hand and it's not reading as a thumb. So I would say that if there's any way to force the pose a little bit so that it doesn't just feel like a, you know, a straight tube, and force the shape of a thumb a little bit more, I think that it would feel a little bit more natural. So even if the character rig and the, I mean, I can see that the fingers have a very kind of generalized shape to them and stuff, but just for readability, and you know, we all know what we look like with our hands on our phone and doing stuff with our thumbs. So it just feels, it kind of feels like that the hand is kind of too generalized in that way. I hope that makes sense. It's a nitpicky thing, but it's something that I notice every time I watch it. So let's see. I think at the top of the second shot, when it cuts from here to here, I would love to see her eye direction still looking down at the phone before she, you know, after the cut happens, so she's still looking down towards the phone. I know she's already started lifting it, but, and so she's in the middle of the movement on the cut, which is great. But if her eyes are still looking down towards the phone, and she's also holding it much tighter to her chest here than she is on the last frame of this one as well. So that's another thing, is when we cut to here, the phone should still be out here a little bit. So if she was still looking with her eye direction down towards that phone, it would be another thing that would help to connect those two shots a little bit better. So it's when we come into the front view here, that she is still looking there when she is in the middle of that motion. So we are still connected to the fact that she's looking at the phone at the top of the shot. It kind of feels disjointed because when we cut to here, she's not looking at the phone, and the phone is right up against her chest. But cutting on the movement is good, definitely. But I think having her looking at the phone off the top of the next shot still for the first few frames, make it very visible to the audience before she looks away, would help to connect the first and the second shot a little bit better. Lip sync, I think, is one of the things where there's the most issue. It feels like she, mostly her, it feels like she is kind of glazing over some of the speech, and she also, the tongue animation needs to have more visibility to it. It's actually difficult for me to tell if you've animated her tongue at all, honestly. So it's losing a lot of the definition of the sound because it's not very visible. Let me just play it through once, just so that we can have a sense of where it's at when I'm talking about it with sound.
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not the end of the world to feel things.
I guess not. It's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus.
One more time.
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not the end of the world to feel things.
I guess not. It's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus.
Okay, so if we go back to talk about her lip sync, her M's need to be a little bit more pronounced. Now, let me just look through here.
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted.
Yeah. So you can see that when she's even going into the word my, having my, the lips are really only closed for one frame. So then on the next frame, they're starting to open again, subtly. So what that does is it makes it read as if they're not quite closing all the way on those MVP sounds, and it feels like it's sort of skipping over it a little bit. It's too soft, it doesn't read. So on M's, B's, and P's, as much as possible, I like to keep the lips shut for two solid frames, just to make sure it reads. That doesn't mean that you can't move the lips up or down on the face, so that they're not just locked in one position for 2 frames, because you don't want it to kind of stick there. But you can have movement happening, but as long as the lips are closed, it's going to read as that sound. So when she says, having my, so what you could do is when you go into ing, having, you can have the lips up a little bit, my, and then drop. So one up, one down, and then open into my, having my. So you get that sense of fleshiness in there, and working through from one word into the word my and then out the other end, you know. So it'll still give some flexibility and movement in there on the M sound. So look at that on every place that you have those M's, B's, and P's, that type of thing. The V shape on the word having is really missing completely, so it's not reading at all. And the SH shape on when she says shut, make sure that that gets a little bit more definition as well. So a little more pucker on that. And really in everywhere that she's got an or a sound with a pucker, there should be a little more push to that shape so that it reads really well. And you know, I mean, she's got kind of a sedate kind of expression going on. She's down, she's sad, so it doesn't need to be something that's overly exaggerated, but it does need more than what's there, just so that it will read. And then, particularly in the second part of her dialogue where she says,
It's melting shut.
It's not the end of
after he speaks,
Guess not. It's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus.
I guess not, it's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus. It feels like there's no tongue animation in there, and that is, I mean, in the whole thing, I think it needs to show up more, but particularly in that second part. And what's happening is, even if you do have it animated, what's happening is from this angle, it's not reading very well. So sometimes, depending on what your camera angle is, you know, she's kind of at a 3/4 view. We can see inside the mouth to a pretty big degree, so even if the tongue rotations, if you've put them in there and the tongue is moving in the mouth, from this angle, it's maybe not, because it's not straight on, it's a little bit to the side, a little 3/4. Maybe it's not as visible. So sometimes you need to actually take the tongue position and cheat it over to the side a little bit more, or wherever it's going to be more visible in the mouth, so that we can see it. Even if you can just see flashes of it moving in there, it creates a very clear understanding of the articulation of the sound to the viewer, because we're used to watching other people speak, so we understand what all those tongue movements are doing inside the mouth, if you can kind of see it going on in there. So it's not like you have to articulate it like crazy, but you do need to make it visible so that we can read that it's there, so that we can read the articulation of those sounds and the definition of those sounds. So you're missing, the tongue movement really creates a whole lot of the dialogue sounds. So cheat it over to the side a little bit. And then for him, really the main thing for his dialogue looks pretty good. When he says feel, it looks more to me like he's saying fool than feel. So even if you want him to go into more of a pucker for the L, feel. That's okay, but start it with getting the corners of the mouth back a little bit for the E, feel, before it comes forward into the full, feel. Right now it's just going full. You're kind of missing the E in between. And then when he says things at the end, to feel things, and he's turning his head to the side, it's not really readable. His lips part a little bit on that, but it would be a lot more effective if you move his jaw a little bit more on the ing, so that we can read that he's speaking still, especially with him being so far back on the in the picture. And he's also getting blurred out towards the end there too, so you don't want him to that part of his dialogue to get lost. I love all those little hand gestures and secondary gestures and stuff in the background, and the way he's holding the wine glass, and the little weight shifts and uncomfortable and all that stuff. I think that stuff is working so well on him. What else I wrote. When we're looking at this shot and he is thinking, we get this sense that he's pondering what she said and he's feeling bad about it. Right before the camera cuts, we need to understand that his focus has changed to something completely different. So the fact that this last glance over, isn't really any different than when he sort of goes from here to here, there to there. The speed is really the same. It still feels kind of just sort of down and sad kind of feel. I think that for him turning his attention from her and her plight to Marcus and the fact that he's back there behind the bar tied up, there should be a little bit more kind of movement to it, like a quicker movement to it. Make the eye dart a little bit faster, make the head move follow a little bit quicker. It can still have a nice flow out to it, and it doesn't have to be super fast, but just something to pick up the energy a tiny bit so that we can read, you know, that there's a thought process going on, that his attention is actually changing to something else, that he's not just still thinking about her. It's hard to read if he's looking at something else or if he's just, you know, continuing to dart his eyes around at nothing in particular while he's still thinking. So if it's a little bit quicker and it locks in there and the head follows and we get a sense that he's glancing over at something, that would really help a lot leading into this cut. And then on this shot, I think his head really needs to turn around just a little bit more, and maybe get the shoulder down, sheep it down just a tiny bit so that he's, I mean, I know you don't really need to see much more but his eyes, but his head is kind of, silhouette-wise, is just sort of becoming a blob there. Because of the way his nose is being cut off by his shoulder. So I think if you can show a little bit more of that nose profile in the negative space, that would really help a lot. But to get his head turned around a tiny bit more also so that the audience can stay a little bit more in contact with the character would really help. And you also need a little bit more time at the end. I see you have your focus is changing to go from it's rack focusing from the back to the front so that we can focus on Marcus. And it doesn't quite get in focus all the way before it cuts. So you need to have some more frames there. And I noticed it's 478 frames, but at 476, it cuts to white. So we're losing even the end part of the focus at the end. And I admit it took me a few times watching it to figure out what was going on in here. And I had to pause it and look at it to, you know, be sure that this guy was tied up. And because it starts off out of focus, and you just kind of see him with his, is he sleeping back there? Like, it's hard to read when you're watching it, and it goes by quickly. So you need to hold the end camera a little bit longer. I would give it another 5, 8, 10 frames to complete the rack focus, and allow the audience's eye to focus in on him and see what's going on there, and really understand what's going on there. So it would be a lot easier for the communication if that was the case. Alright, let's play it again one more time.
I'm considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not the end of the world to feel things.
Guess not. It's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus.
I think that is,
Considering having my tear ducts melted shut.
It's not the end of the world to feel things.
I think
Guess
that
not.
might be it.
It's up there. The thing is, I really care about Marcus.
You did a really terrific job with the timing of the secondary stuff, how it's working with the dialogue, that she, when she's gesturing and when she hugs herself, and for him, same thing, the timing of all of his gestures along with the dialogue. It all feels very natural, and I love the way that the expression is working on both of the characters, and the way that it's rolling with the dialogue, and the emphases and the pauses of the dialogue. So that was a really, really nice attention to detail on all that stuff. And, really there's just sort of a lot of small details that would punch things up a little bit more. And but this is really, really terrifically put together. I love the characters. I love the body language. I love the organic feel of everything. It's very pleasant to watch because it has such a nice organic feel to it. So I think that's it for now. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions about anything I covered, or if there's anything that you are left wondering about, and I'd be happy to talk with you anytime. So congratulations again, and good luck if you enter again on another month, and really well done. Thanks a lot. See you later.